guys all know this, like if you've ever done any presenting at all, when you have people who are engaging back and forth with you, it makes it so much more fun. So yesterday, the question that I asked everybody to answer in the chat channel, just so that we can make sure everybody knows how to use it, in the chat channel, I asked people to answer, do you have a New Year's resolution, or are you the type of person that does not create New Year's resolutions? So in the chat channel, I want to see your answers. Do you have a New Year's resolution? Do you set them every year, or are you the type of person that does not set New Year's resolutions? Let's see what we got. Well, everybody else in the chat, do you have a New Year's resolution or no? Tiffany says, I don't. Scott does not either. Oh, Jim says he has a reality board that goes with my growth plan, GPS, and 411. So is that what's in your background, Jim? I was trying to see what that was. What is a reality board? Tell us more about that.
Well, I can't take the credit for that. That is Bob Wells and Financial Mastery. So for me, it really resonated more reality board instead of a vision board. So that was the first year that I did any sort of event. And it was a 10-mile, 30 obstacle course, which is the Barber Beast on the Bay. It supports a nonprofit. So I've been doing that every year since 2021. And this year's the first year I'm going to do a triathlon and a couple of half marathons too, which I've been doing a half marathon every year. But those are my physical goals.
All right.
That they stay in front of me all the time. I have it here, have it on my background, it's on my door, and people can hold me accountable to it.
All right. Very clear way of moving forward. We had a couple of people that say not really, or they used to and they didn't. John McClickton, we're going to hear from you today. You said share $2 million back to our agents through your market center, profit share, and ancillary businesses. I love that one. What else do we got? So some people are saying they try to. I shared with the group yesterday that last year I was on a health journey and I made a New Year's resolution to not eat French fries all year. And I made it the entire year of 2024 without eating one French fry. I don't know. It's just something internal that I will always have.
Lewis, that's amazing. Let me just say.
The entire year of 2024. And honestly, like, because I'm like kind of restarting everything this year, like I don't even want to try them. I don't even want to like go there right now and like break it, because like I feel like I will not be able to put the genie back in the bottle. So while I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. Some people give up alcohol. I give up French fries. We all have our things. We all have our things. My husband and my son like to tease me a lot about it. They were eating French fries last night and kind of waving them in my face to kind of tease me a little bit, but we let them do that. All right, guys, we are going to get ready to get started here. We're going to take a little bit different of a approach to our call today than we have in the last couple of months. Those of you who have joined us or have been on this journey with us, you know that we typically will bring in one person to just talk about a specific topic. As we were starting the year, I thought that it might be important for us to hear from a couple of different people in more of a fireside chat type way of just some thoughts on what does it look like to have a lifestyle of wealth building, right? What do people hear? So I invited some of my closest friends to come on and talk to you today. We've got Terese Brittingham, John McClickton, and Lewis Nixon. And we're gonna talk about, I was gonna say, can you guys highlight us all? We're gonna have a little fireside chat with you all. I'm gonna ask them to introduce themselves so that you can get to know them a little bit better. And then we're just going to have an open conversation for about 30 minutes or so. And then we want to answer any questions that you all might have about how to get started with a wealth building journey, or if you're at a certain spot in your journey, like how you might want to go in a different direction, or if you want to ask any advice. So that's what we're going to do today. So Terese, without further ado, why don't you give us a quick little intro of you?
Okay, well, I'm Terese Brittingham. I'm the OP of the Collegeville Market Center. I've been in the business for 32 years, can't believe it, with Keller Williams for 22, going on 23 years, which is, I don't know where the time went, guys. If you're younger, it goes fast. So stay on track. Started investing probably about 15 years ago, and I wish I would have done it sooner. I kind of didn't move forward on it because I guess of fear or whatever it is, or I just was busy and didn't take the time to focus on that. And I'll tell you, focusing in on that has changed my trajectory and my life. And so I think that it's something that you should consider doing at a younger age. And I'm hoping that our younger agents will do that. I taught my children to do that, and they'll have obviously a better retirement plan for it. So that's who I am.
Awesome. Thanks, Terese. Hey, Lewis Nixon, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. So I'm Lewis Nixon. I'm the team leader in the Wilmington, Delaware Market Center. Going on almost, Michelle, can you believe it? Almost 4 years.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
I know. Feels like I just started still, but sometimes.
It does.
But anyways, I've been at Keller Williams 12 years now, and again, can't see myself leaving because there's just been so many different opportunities for me to get into and to help me build wealth. So I started investing 3 years ago. Like Terese said, I wish I started a lot sooner. But for me, I had a lot of things in my mind thinking that I couldn't invest or I wasn't in the position to invest. And so I found some ways to get around that. And so I'm really passionate about like helping those that haven't started yet because of certain mental roadblocks and showing them my stories about like, you still can.
Yeah, I love that, Lewis.
Yep.
Hey, John McClintock.
Hey, how
How
are
are
you?
you?
I'm good.
I'm
I'm the OP of Bucks County South, which is in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, and the founder of the Newtown office, partner Justin Gall there as the OP, and then we also own Northeast Philadelphia. So we have just under 700 agents. We did almost 1.5 billion in sales last year, volume wise, and we have I personally have major goals of sharing $2 million consistently every year through the 3 market centers and then ancillary businesses. But I also have shifted my own personal wealth building through real estate from residential to commercial. So that's been a big thing the last couple of years. I had a big goal of owning 12 Terry Drive, which is the building Newtown is in. And I worked on the former landlord. We were a tenant for about 5 years. And he kept telling me, yeah, John, in 2 or 3 years, I'll be ready. But it was every year, it was 2 or 3. And I said, when do we start reducing the number of years until you're ready? And finally in 2020, I think the pandemic scared him half to death and I took advantage of it and we got a really good deal. Justin Gall and I just went in and bought it ourselves. I actually made the deal with the former owner at a Starbucks on a napkin. And it was a block from my attorney. So I took the napkin, walked it down to my attorney and I said, can you make this work? Like get this done? And he's like, can you stop bringing me napkins? So that's a funny story of how we got, but we own 12 Terry. We're 100% occupied now. We're making real money on the property. And, it's scary to say I'm going to spend over $4 million on a building that's maybe 60% occupied at the time, struggling to get tenants, knowing the building really well because we'd been here for 5 years. It was really out of the comfort zone when the time really came, but I had to be a man of my word. It was a goal. And Justin was really big in helping me just mindset wise. We can do this. We're going to renovate it. We're going to get people in here. And we got an architect that literally made the difference, took up 6,500 square feet, long-term lease, and has given us an offer, really big offer to buy it from us. So,
Isn't that great?
which I said no to, but it could happen down the road if I ever feel like it. So anyway, that's a little bit of my story.
That's awesome. And we're going to hear about more of your story as we go on. For those of you who haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name's Michelle McBride. I'm the regional director for our amazing gold standard Keller Williams Greater Pennsylvania region. What that means is that the region that we are part of is the entire state of Pennsylvania, the entire state of Delaware, and about 2/3 of New Jersey, the best sides of New Jersey, right? The southern part of New Jersey. We have just under 10,000 agents in our region. We have over 40 locations that are market centers. We have 35 business centers. So we've got our signs out and people moving and shaking all over the place. I'm also an investor in a couple of things. So I'm an OP. Lewis, Nixon, and I are business partners in the Wilmington, Delaware Market Center. So I'm an OP in a couple of market centers, and also an investor in residential real estate and a couple of other small businesses that I've had the opportunity to invest in, which has been a whole different journey. Because you know the business model of Keller Williams, and then you take some of those principles and apply them to like a hair salon, and there's a lot of things that are different in a hair salon that you have to learn and adjust to that are not the same as, you know, selling real estate. So it's been a journey, and I'm excited to talk to you guys all about that today. Terese, I want to start with you. You said that you started investing 15 years ago, and you wish you would have started sooner. What was the beginning of your journey like? So when you were deciding to start investing, like what was the decision? Why did you just start? Like why did you start to invest? Like what was the final like thing that you were like, you know what, I have to go down this road?
Well, the first one was, like John mentioned, a commercial deal. So we bought land and we built our office building because we were, rent is so expensive. You're in the landlord's hands. CAM was always going up, and we were always trying to reconcile at the end of the year. And it was never, budgeting was not easy. So that was really one of the big reasons that we did it. Unfortunately for us, we bought our land and built our building in 2006. We moved in July 1st of 2008, right as the market tanked. And we lost all our tenants. So we were the only tenants in our 50,000 square foot building, which lasted for many years. So Tom and I used to joke about just going up to the roof and jumping off. we're like, this. We felt like such a good decision at the time because, 2006, I mean, goodness gracious, things were really good. Who would have ever thought we were going to have happen what happened? But we survived it, and I'll tell you, you're going to take bumps and bruises along the way. And I think that's one of the things that you need to understand is that's part of the journey and the process, because you live and you learn, you make mistakes, you get better each time. We now are not even in that building anymore because we ran out of parking because our office expanded and grew so much. So we're now renting from Dow Chemical. We have a beautiful office space here. But the goal is to find another piece of land and build another building. The one we have in Limerick is now fully rented. So we're starting to see, the fruits of our labor are starting to come back to us, which is really nice because that's been a long journey. I will say one of the other things I learned early on is be really careful and choosy about your partners. I'm a very trusting person, and I make decisions based on friendship sometimes without really exploring. So I've learned some valuable lessons along the way. Our partner in our building up there in Limerick is still our partner in the building, and we'll never be able to get rid of them, but they're not the same type of people I am. And it's difficult when you don't have someone you trust 100% who's more in control of things. So we learned that. So of course, going forward, it's just Tom and I on our investments, because I know I can trust him. We've been partners for 31 years. Which is craziness. But from there, after we got through all of that, I started investing in single family homes, flipping. So we started a flipping business, and we did really well, especially over COVID. We flipped 32 houses over COVID. And that was crazy how that all worked and how we were able to make that happen. But contractors were available. We were able to get work cheap. We were able to turn properties over fairly quickly. So that was kind of our jumpstart into the flipping business. As far as owning and keeping properties, holding them, we have 14 residential properties that we own, that we have tenants in, that are turning a really nice profit right now. And, you know, you always look at, do I want to sell them because we have so much equity? The nice thing about that is building that equity, because you can use it to keep springboarding into bigger and larger and different types of things. I'm looking forward to hearing from the other two gentlemen as to what they're investing in, because I haven't really gone into the larger multifamily. The biggest one I have is a fourplex, but I really would like to start looking more into like an apartment building or something along those lines, and figure out how can I continue to keep on just snowballing what we have into something bigger.
Yeah, I love that. Terese, like, it's amazing to me the mindset that you had to have had during that downturn and during that time period, because that's really scary. Like, you know, you're putting a lot of money out, you're almost like your well-being is like there, right? You're like, this is like this first big investment. And then 2008, those of you who, Natalie, probably, were you even born in 2008? I don't know. But 2008, right? So you have like this vision of what you want to do in your investing world, and then all of a sudden this like big thing happens that kind of maybe rocked your confidence a little bit, and then you're like, how do you decide to keep going from that is what I want to know. Like, so you had this like this thing happen, like what was going on in your mind that you said, I have to keep going and I have to keep doing this? Like, why didn't you just quit?
Well, you know me, I'm a forever optimist. So it really takes a lot to knock me down. And I think that you have to have that in you a little bit, because there are going to be bad days. It just happens. The tenants all decide they want to leave at the same time. I mean, what are you going to do? We had a vacant building, which was costing us a lot of money. But we made it. And I think it was really not focusing too much on on maybe, I don't want to call it a mistake, but on the timing of things for ourselves, and focus on how we're going to get out of it, and just really plowing forward and trying to solve the problem, which is something I'm really good at. Like, it takes a lot to knock me down. And if I do get knocked down, you probably would never know it, because I can just keep my positive demeanor, and having people around me seeing the confidence really helped them too. So I feel like even people who were the naysayers and really worried, they would come in and see me smiling and I'm standing. So they were able to follow along with that. So that's really important, is you have to have really thick skin. You have to be okay with risk. I mean, I think the larger the risk, the better the return and the reward, as long as you're making a smart decision. You know, make sure you're doing your due diligence first. But if you're willing to take risks, I think your opportunity for reward just grows and grows and grows. You have to have faith and confidence in yourself. I know tomorrow I can make whatever money I need to make. And all of us can. We're in a wonderful business. We're in real estate. So all we have to do is put our nose to the grindstone, and we can earn whatever we want. We just have to do it. So I feel like it's always an opportunity for us to make money. Always.
Yeah, I love that. Louis, I want to come to you. You said you started investing 3 years ago, and that you had to figure out creative ways to go around it. So can you talk about the beginning of your investment journey and how you got started?
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, I think it makes more sense for me to, first let you know, like, I didn't know anything about building wealth for the first few chapters of my life, right? Like, I didn't grow up learning about wealth. That wasn't net worth, wasn't a word that was discussed in my household, right? So, once I got to KW and, got into some classes where they started talking about financial freedom and, cash flow and buying real estate, is when my ears were like, wait, what is this about? Right. And so the first stage, Michelle, was this about learning. Right. So I was like, okay, I know nothing, like I need to learn. So, and I'm learning based. And so I dove in, right? Like every podcast, Bigger Pockets, right? The Millionaire Real Estate Investor book, anything on YouTube, like I was just going, all in with that. So after a long time of learning, the frustration was sitting in because I felt like I knew enough, but my financial status at the time, like I felt like I wasn't in the position to do anything, right? So there's nothing worse, Michelle, right, than being like so excited, like I want to buy something. You're like, ooh, I don't think I can, right? And so I probably sat in that for a little too long, but then Gary Keller had like a story that he told, I think it's in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book or investor book, that like a friend of his, was talking about like he wanted to buy something and he had some roadblocks, and the big roadblock that he made it seem was he didn't have enough money. And Gary asked him a powerful question, and that question was, well, if you had the money, what would you buy? What would you invest in? And he was like, I don't know. And he's like, so Gary said, well, then money is not the problem, right? The
Mm,
problem is you don't even know what you would buy, right? So for me, I told myself, well, Lewis, like finances is not the problem. Like if someone were to take care of that for you, do you clearly know like what you would invest in and what a good deal looks like? And the answer was no, right? So I realized that I needed to start analyzing deals. So on the MLS, I started, setting up a hot sheet of an area that I was interested in investing in, and just started doing the simple, like, does it cash flow, right? Does it make sense, equity wise and all that. So I did that. And what happened was I was working with a buyer who was looking to buy a home in that area that I wanted to invest in. They couldn't find anything. And I knew of an agent that took off a listing recently, withdrew it. And so I went to that agent and I said, hey, I have a buyer that like would probably like that house. Um, what's going on with that? Does the seller want to still sell? And the agent was like, you know what? Like they do, and we're going to put it back on the market like in another week. And I said, well, okay, let me look at that property and let my buyer look at it. So I let my buyer look at it, but I also analyzed it myself. And I was like, the price that they're going to put it back on the market, like it was like a slam dunk in this market, right?
okay.
And so I told my buyer, I said, if you don't buy this, right, like I may. So my buyers didn't want it, and they didn't want it because, oh, we got to redo the carpet, the paint, and simple updates. And I'm like, this is great, right? And so, but here again, I didn't have the means to purchase the property, Michelle. But what I did was since I did the numbers, I went to people that I knew that were investors in my world. And I went, and it was actually my team leader at the time. And I said, hey, I found this property. It's going to go on the market in the week, but I know that this is the price that they'll probably take right now. Would you be interested in doing it with me? And I've known this person for a very long time, right? And so again, got to be careful with partnerships. And so he was like, no, I can't, but you're right. This is a slam dunk deal. And someone else you do know is looking for a partner, and they want to buy a rental. So he introduced me to this person who's also a KW agent. I showed them the deal, her and her husband, and they were like, look, we will, take care of the financial part of it. And, we'll be, essentially, well, to get very, to tell the truth here, they took care of the mortgage, Michelle. All right. And so I was not on the mortgage. We split the cost of the down payment down the middle. Right. So me and my wife brought half of the 20% needed. They brought half of the 20% needed. And because for me, the big thing was like I couldn't get a mortgage at the time. Right.
Okay.
So they took care of that pain point. So and what we did was I gave them 5% more equity in the property for taking on that risk. Again, in my
Yeah.
world, I'm like, I'm just happy to be moving forward here with a deal. Have 5%,
Yeah.
right? I get it. Um,
Right.
and so anyways, they did that. And so long story short, that we became partners. We purchased that property. We've had it since 2021. We cash flow over $1,000 a month on it, and have a lot of equity in it. And so it turned out to be great. So my lesson in all that really is like I realized with investors, like the issue is finding good deals, right? If
Yeah.
you find
Always.
right,
Always.
it doesn't take a great credit score. It doesn't take money in the bank to go find deals, right? So that started my journey of like, Lewis, just go finding great deals, and then have your 2 or 3 people that could look at them, and we'll figure out a win-win if it makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. Lewis, there's so many people over the last 3 years that we've been doing these calls that are in your situation. And that's why I think it's so important for them to hear this story, because we say there's always people who are out, right? And you were the one that like heard that. You heard there's people out there who will invest with you. There's right. And you actually took action on that. And you went to the people who you thought would be able to do that, and you went forward with it. So I think that it's really important that we have real life examples. You and I talk about this all the time. Like, we're not just talking about things, the real life examples of how these things actually work is the validity that we talk about, right? All the time. You and I are always talking about validity, validity, validity. So I think that like your story and you being willing to share that is so important for a lot of people on the call who are in that cycle, right? That they want to get started, they don't know where to go. So number one, I just want to say thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that with everybody. But number two, like, I'm freaking proud of you for taking the steps and like evaluating where you were and saying, this is what I have to do. And this is right. Like, it's,
Yep.
dude, you are so valid in what you just demonstrated. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and it led to, I've done 3 or 4 other great deals, different deal like land deals, all this the same way, right? I'm just out there finding deals, right? And I have my people to bring them to, and so that would be my advice to people is like if you don't feel like you're in a position, go build your team, right? Meaning like get in front of people who are in a position to do something, make sure your values align and just tell them like, hey, what's a slam dunk deal for you? Great, I'm gonna go find it, right? I'm gonna go find that. I'll be back to you. We'll make it a win-win, right? And keep doing that because it's worked out really well for me.
Lewis, look in Dallastown, Pennsylvania.
But here's to your point. You're one of those people, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
finding that like my list of people that I know that I can go to with stuff. And you guys would make it a win-win for me if I found something great.
100%.
Yep.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep.
Hey, John, I'm coming to you. Same kind of question when you were getting started on your wealth building journey. Like, well, where did you start from, and how did you get going?
I was in a mastermind group with Gary Keller a long time ago, and he said something he probably had said before in a meeting, a family reunion or mega camp or something, but it hit me that why are we helping other people build wealth and not doing it ourselves, right? And so I was younger and I had kids still at home and, college coming for 4 kids and all that stuff. And I was nervous about, it was easier for me to just sell property at the time, right? And just make the commissions and make the money and move on. And so he said, when you go out on I was a strong listing agent. So you go out on a listing, your first decision should be, am I buying this or am I going to market it to someone else? And that really, really hit me at the time. And I was really convicted. So I would say if Michelle, you probably know this as well as anybody in my life, but if there's nothing else about me, I have convictions and I stick to conviction, whether it's my faith, whether it's the businesses that I own and involved in, the people who are in my world. I'm convicted in helping people build wealth, share profit, and do everything the right way and never compromise, um, you know, reputation and things like that. So having said that, I think at the end of the day, I got a strong conviction to start to build wealth for myself, for my family. And then when I started to really, I bought Paul Allen out, which was a huge investment. I won't get into the numbers, but it was a big deal. And when I did all that, we opened up Newtown, then Northeast Philly came as an opportunity. I think it was living under the conviction, having consistency, and caring, not just caring about my own wealth, but caring about everyone else around me's wealth and talking about it on a regular basis. And I don't care if people get sick of me talking about it. I really don't. So somebody said to me, one of my, you know, the worst things about me is all I talk about is profit and sharing profit. And so I was like, if I go to my deathbed and that's what they have
That's
negative
the
to say
worst
about
thing.
me, I'm good. I'm good. So that made me think through like the businesses that we own, right? So now I own 7 offices, 3 market centers of the 7, almost 700 agents we've grown to, 3 title companies and 1 home and auto insurance company. And those are just the business type things that we own. Justin Gall and I went on a big journey that we're just finishing right now of merging the 3 title companies into one.
Yeah,
And
I know that's been something you've been working on for quite some time.
when I leave this meeting, I'm going into a meeting with my team on sharing about $500,000 in that one title company back to the agents, just to the agents. So, and that'll hopefully happen next week where they get checks. So, it's been a big deal, big, long process. But I think at the end of the day, this hasn't been for me because honestly, I could have just left it the way it was and just wrote it and dealt with the little bit of negative that we were getting from a joint venture partner. We decided to get rid of our joint venture partner and do it ourselves. So I hired a great team to just run it for us, and we own
Yeah.
it. So that's Cindy, at the end of the day, what happened. But I want you to know, like, it was a big risk to take on. We spent a ton of time with attorneys. There was Trip Riley. I don't, you guys probably know him, but he's a RESPA attorney. He had a team of 3 other attorneys. We had them up on a Zoom just like this with 4 pictures of 4 attorneys telling me what to do and me pushing back, telling them I don't want to do it
Oh my
like
God,
that.
that's my worst. By the way,
Yeah.
these are my worst days when I have to talk to that
Yep.
many attorneys.
Yep. And I would say, no, I don't like that. I don't like that.
No.
Is there any reason why we can't do it like this? And they'd be like, yeah, there's some
Oh,
legal issues.
they don't like how entrepreneurial we are at all.
No, no. Trip Riley said, I'm the one of the biggest advocates for my agents that he's ever encountered when it comes to like a
That's
real
such a
estate brokerage. I
compliment.
said, I'll take it because I'm just going to keep fighting for them and for us and stuff like that. So, but when it comes to when you get in the mindset of building wealth, and like Lewis and Terese were just talking about finding deals and having maybe bigger vision on, now Terese is talking about multifamilies and things like that. I think what the fun part has, and Justin Gall just said this to me right before he did a mastermind right before I came in here, and I was listening in on what was going on in there. He just said this right before he walked in. We both got proposed 2 opportunities, right? Two investment opportunities this morning. 2 different people, didn't know we were talking to them, whatever. And we both came to tell each other the story of, hey, we were given this opportunity. And I said, no, I just want you to know if they call you, I already said no to it. We both said almost the same thing at the same time about both. So what's really great is you get to a point where you can say no to more than you actually do. And I think, I think it was Terese was talking about due diligence. I mean, due diligence, and I like what Lewis was saying about who you get into business with really, really matters. I think you can get off by just wanting the deal or wanting the money. And it can't really be about that. I mean, ultimately it
100%.
is, yes. But it's generally not a short-term play. It's, these situations we're talking about are long-term plays, and it has to make sense. And so I think what you want is the opportunity to say no.
Yeah.
And it could be a
Yeah.
good thing, a good deal, but
You hit
it's
on
not right
something that I
timing.
want to you hit on something that I want to take us in the direction of talking about, because all 3 of you have talked about the importance of partners. Terese, you were saying early on, your partners are important. Lewis, you finding the right partners for you to invest in deals with. John, you have amazing business partners in Justin and the people who you've partnered with in the past. You guys might not know this, but like when Lewis and I were deciding if we were going to get into a relationship with each other, I said, dude, I'm looking for somebody. And I said this to try to scare him away from the opportunity. I said, Lewis, I'm looking for someone who wants to be in business with me for 10 years. Like, if you take this team leader role, you have to be willing to take it for 10 years, because I know that it's at that point is when our relationship will be deep enough. We will have had enough time to go through everything. We will have enough time to really test each other through those hard times. And Liz, I still to this day can't believe you got into this opportunity after I said that to you. But what I will tell you is that in the 4 years that you have been the team leader, we have faced some really hard stuff together. And I think that us being committed to each other and seeing it through has allowed us to come out on the other side of some really, really, really difficult situations, with keeping each other at like the center of, we care about each other first, right? Like, it's, I care about Lewis, he cares about me first. And then outside of that is all the other business stuff that happens, right? So when you guys think about the importance of partnership and you think about partners that are in your world, like, what do you think about, and what are you looking for in a good partner for investing in real estate or just literally running a business with? So Terese, I'll go to you first.
So I think, you know, every time I've been in a partnership, I mean, Tom's my longest partner, 31 years. We're like brother and sister. So I trust him with everything. He trusts me with everything. I know that, you know, he's my ride or die, right? But I've had a lot of bad partners, and I've learned a lot of lessons over the years. Our latest situation was a piece of property we bought based on our general partner's advice. It was 100 acres up in Lehighton. And we got investors involved, and it was a really, really cool project. And he was presenting everything. And we've kind of since part ways, and now we're trying to do the project ourselves and finding out that everything he told us was not true. You know, the plans and the, you know, the 99 houses that we were going to put on there is something the township was never going to approve. So, you know, we basically took almost $1 million bath on that. And we're trying now to figure out how do we, you know, correct that situation. And I was listening to a video getting ready for this, and I was one of our hard money. It's not a hard money lender; it's a private money lender who we do our deals with, funding for flippers. He was doing a video, and he just said, you know, when you're hiring your contractors or general contractors, remember the first 3 words of the word. And I was like, oh my goodness, I never thought of it that way. You know, you have to be careful, and you have to always put first the thought that, why is this person wanting to be involved with you? What's in it for them in the end? And honestly, we KPA everybody now, even anybody that wants to work with us, because I want to know what they're really about, and how I can communicate with them, and what signs to look for when things might be going wrong, because their personality kind of always lets you know. So just be careful. You're going to have a bad partner. It's going to happen, and you're going to live and learn from it. But just every time you do, you're better at it. So yeah. I think slow down the process. Like I said, I'm a forever optimist, and I make quick decisions, and I'm a risk taker, all the things that add up to getting taken advantage of sometimes. But I do learn from every single lesson, and just putting that aside and just making sure that you take the foot off the gas pedal, you know, for a day or two, and just do some more due diligence and get to know the people on a deeper level. Check references, you know, go back and talk to people and see, you know, what kind of experience did they have with projects that this person was involved with. If I would have done that, I would have saved myself a lot of money on this project. And I didn't, because it was someone I knew, and I just felt like I knew them really well, and I didn't. I didn't know them. I didn't know the other side of the person. So I would say, you know, from learning from the mistakes I've made, is definitely take your time, pick your partners really, really carefully. And if you don't need a partner to do a project, don't take a partner to do the project. If you can find a way to do it yourself, do it yourself. You can share the wealth, like John was saying. You know, I love to share the wealth. You know, I like to give to Alex's Lemonade, whoever it is that we can help that's in need. I can do that better when I'm more in control of the money and what's happening with it. So we've learned to really not trust people in our partnerships quite as much. People really have to earn their way in. So, you know, make it a little bit harder for people to get into what it is you're trying to accomplish. And I do want to, you know, touch on what you said, Lois. Leveraging other people's money is an amazing thing. So if you can find private money out there, even hard money, if you know your project's going to flip over really quickly, yeah, it's a little bit higher, but they'll finance the repair work. Do that, because as long as it works into your numbers, you're not touching your own money. And at the end of the day, that's a special thing. And there's lots of it out there. There's tons of ways to get to leverage how to buy a property. And sometimes it's the person who owns the property. Are they in a position to hold the loan for a little while you do your repairs? Get creative, I think, is what I would recommend.
Awesome. Thanks, Terese. Willis, when you think about partners, what do you think about?
Yeah, so two main things. I remember listening one time to an executive at Chick-fil-A, and this executive was in the seat of hiring. And I guess I would not argue that, Chick-fil-A does decent at hiring people, right? The people they're operating partners, they all tend to work out pretty well. So they asked, like, what's one of the things that you guys look at to hire these people? And they said that the greatest predictor of how someone's going to act in the future, Michelle, is to look at their past, right?
Mm.
And what I mean by that too is, like, not saying that, like, hey, how are they acting when they're 23, right? And they're 50 some now. I'm not saying that. I'm saying how, because trust me, maybe somebody might
Just
not hire.
don't go back to me when I was 19.
I was like, you might not hire me neither if you looked at my college days, right? But what they mean by that is, like, if someone has been acting a certain way in the last year or two, and you could probably predict they're going to be that person next year, right? And so that's one of the first things I look at, is just like spending time, figuring out someone's value and beliefs, and only choosing partners that I've been around for a long time, right? And so, I only have probably three main partners right now, you being one of them. And when we partnered up, I've been at Keller Williams, already 9 years. And so I knew you, right? And I know enough people who knew you, right? And to find that out. And then the other two, I've known one of them since we were in 5th grade together, and now we're doing investments together. So I knew who this person was. So when I have that history to look at, to know, like, that the person's values, that helps. And so the second thing is that I'd say is that the person is more important than their performance. And what I mean by that is, like, I care more about, like, who that person is than what they can actually are capable of doing in business, if that makes sense, right? Like, you can look at the partnership and be like, oh my God, like, this will be a slam dunk because of all these business reasons. But guess what? If you don't like them as a person, it's not going to
100%.
it's not going to be a good partnership, right? Despite
Right.
all the great things that they can do. So that would be my advice: is take your time to get to know them as a person, their values, have actual evidence that you can point to, that you know how they would act in certain situations, how they make decisions in their life, all that stuff. And I think you're off to a good start.
Yeah, I love that, Lewis. I think you're spot on. There's a lot of people that would show up as somebody who could potentially look like an amazing partner, but you peel back the onion just a little bit and you realize that it's a lot of fraudulent stuff. It's not real. It's a lot of projection. It's a lot of, it's kind of like when you really start to evaluate what that person is actually about, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many things about that person that just don't, like, their audio and visual don't match up, right? And I think you're so spot on with that. Sometimes slowing down and really getting to know the person is the absolute best way of doing it. John, you've had a lot of partners over the years, and you've got some really strong partners right now that you're growing, a massive empire with. So when you think about partners, what's important to you?
So I didn't want to steal what the other two said, so I wrote something down so I wouldn't steal it, because I love what they said. But I wrote down they pretty much have to be smarter than me, which isn't a high bar, but they need to be smarter than me. Number two, they have to have an expertise that helps um, whatever it is that we're doing. Like, when I went to our attorney for title and I asked her to come back into my world, she said, if you do what you're saying you're going to do, I'm all in. That was her first reaction to me. And I was like, you're the biggest piece of this puzzle to me, actually, me and Justin and our team being able to actually do this. So it's finding the right people that are smarter or have an expertise more than me in whatever's required. I like what Lewis said. You got to like being around them. But for me, it's more than they're funny. Like if you're funny and you take life not so seriously, we're probably going to get along because that's how I live my life. Like I don't like taking life too seriously because I also know that I'm not guaranteed tomorrow, so
Yeah.
I'm going to live today and I'm not going to not live today. Right. So, but I also at the same time, your likability and somebody I want to be around is important, but you have to be able to dream with me and
Yeah, I think that's important.
not push me down when I'm dreaming. And the best question I think I've learned to ask people around me, whether it's Becca, Justin, my title partners, my home and auto partners, whoever it is, even my wife, and she calls me on it saying like, you're doing, that to me kind of thing. But if you can ask people, is there any reason why we can't do this? And them to not say no right away and at least consider what you're talking about and actually
Right.
dream with you on that thing. So Justin Gall's the perfect partner for me because he's younger than me. He's energetic. He's inspiring. You guys kind of know him pretty well. But what I love about Justin and where I think he really brought value to me and my business life, really truthfully, is that when we accomplish a big goal that we have, and we've accomplished a lot of good things in the last 5 years, but when we do, it doesn't take him long to say, John, what's next? What are you
Yeah.
dreaming about? Where should we be going? What's our next focus? And he knows that I purposefully take time in my life to be able to think. And I've never done that in my life more than the last 5 years. I
Oh,
I want to be able to think. I bought a shore house on the bay so I can go sit and look at that water and think. And
yep.
like my family even knows, hey, if dad or pop, my grandkids call me pop, if pop's out there by himself, not engaging, it's probably because he's thinking about something and
Yep.
he's gonna build something, and
He's up
that's
to
the story.
something.
Yeah. And then I come in and I'm like, hey, what if we did this?
Oh gosh. John, I relate to that so much because there's so many times where, we were off for a couple of weeks. We had some downtime for the holidays, and I felt like I came back and I had to like make sure I didn't give all of my thoughts that I was having
Like,
for the like 2 weeks when not talking to anybody, like all at one time. So like I have like a list of things that I allowed myself to talk about this week.
yeah, yeah, that's
I was like,
good.
I can't
You
give it all right now because I'm
don't
gonna
crush
like,
them. Yeah, don't
yeah,
crush
I'm
them.
like, they're gonna run away from me. But I totally get that. I do want to give anybody who is in the audience a chance to ask any questions. We have about 10 minutes. So we can go back to some questions. So Igor says, what can you guys recommend for a brand new agent? I'm just starting my journey at KW. So
Love
Terese,
it.
let's start with you. What would you recommend for a brand new agent?
I think, you're in real estate, so you have the opportunity to see deals every single day. So change your mindset as of just going out to list it or find a buyer for it. Is it something that might be a good purchase for you? So if you just take every opportunity to look for that, and then use the MLS, set up some parameters for properties that have expired a long time ago. You might be able to find something really cool there that just slipped through the cracks. I know the stuff that comes up, today, there's 1,000 investors looking at it. But if you can go back and find something over COVID, maybe those years that was on the market because they were thinking they needed the money, they took it off the market, didn't go back. There was a reason they put it on then.
That is so smart.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you guys, make sure say that again, Terese, because that just like lit up a part of my brain
Yeah,
that is like, that's exciting. So say
it
that again
is.
over and over
So,
again.
so you always look at times in the market when like over COVID, people put things up on the market because they needed the money, right? They were not working. They're like, oh, I have this piece of land. It's just sitting here. I don't need it. Let me throw it on the market. And it didn't sell. So it didn't sell, and then it expired, and then things changed. They went back to work, everything was fine, but they still have this asset that they're sitting on that they either forgot about or they just aren't in an emotional state to sell it at the moment. That doesn't mean that if you call them right now and say, hey, I saw that it was on the market, I see it's not now. Is this something you would consider selling? There's deals out there, and people threw their hand up in the air and told you about it. So, and I'm telling you, that's such an untapped market. We work it all the time. You can go there. It's a great resource.
Oh my gosh, Terese, that is a freaking gold nugget. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I hope everybody takes your advice on that. Lewis, what would you recommend for a brand new agent?
I would say start surrounding yourself by people that are actively building wealth. I think like what'll happen is only two things can happen. Like if you start getting around people that build wealth, you will either jump on that journey with them or you'll either decide to get out, right? Like if you start hanging around people that like are real big on fitness, either you're going to decide like, ooh, I'm going to jump on this journey and get fit, or they're going to become annoying and you're going to be like, I'm getting out of this group, right? So Igor, I would say, Igor, like get around people that are building wealth, whether they have masterminds, whatever that may be, networking events local to you, and either you'll hop on that boat with them eventually, or you'll hop off.
Yeah, I love that, Lewis.
Yeah,
John, what do you?
Didn't Gary Keller say wealth is a team sport? That's exactly
Yes.
what you just summed up perfectly.
Your net worth is the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
Is something I heard one time, and that is so true. If you think about like who you're spending the most time with, and if you want to increase your wealth, sometimes you just have to put yourself in a different circle, and I think that that's okay, right? John, you said consistency, but any other consistently making contacts, any other things that you would add to that?
Don't rush it. Do the right thing every day. I think that's what gets too many people in trouble is they're trying to rush it, and it may not be the right time right now for whatever it is.
Yeah.
And Terese, I made a living on expired listings and calling like even old expireds in certain areas I knew really well where I could have a strong, quick conversation and know what I was talking about. I can't tell you how much money I made doing that in sales.
It's like a nice little secret that doesn't need to be a secret in this group.
True.
No, I think that right there, I think that if everyone on this call today, because we're all from different markets, right? Everybody on this call, like there's a lot of people from different markets. If we all went on to the MLS today and went back to that time period and looked, we all have people that we could be calling. Like that is like, it's such a golden like opportunity. It's almost like, yeah, of course, that's what we should be doing. Okay, Mike Caperna said, Terese, can you share what a hard money contract looks like to do those 35 flips? And then Lewis, how do you protect yourself on your equity if you're not on the mortgage?
So when we work
you're
with
probably still on the title, but go ahead, Terese.
We work with a company called Funding for Flippers. So they're not technically hard money. It's their own private funds that they're sending out. So we're paying around 10% interest rate on that, but they'll also fund the repair, which is really great. So we can fund, yes. So we're not using our own money even on fixing the property up. The catch with that is you have to make sure that your timing is good. You've got to get that property done. You need to move it over quickly because 10% adds up fairly quickly if you're not careful. Yeah. So if you know that it's a property that's going to be a little bit harder, another type of financing might be better. But on those ones that are going to take you like 30, 60, maybe 90 days to finish, hard money is a great way to go. And if anybody wants the contacts, I'll put my email address in here. I'm happy to share.
Awesome.
And yeah, Mike, yes. So the type at settlement, like I signed documents that stated specifically like what me and my wife's percentage of equity is. So I signed pretty much all documents that they sign. It's just that not the mortgage note, right? Is the only one. So, but it says specifically in there what I signed, what I get out of the equity.
Awesome. Any other questions? I do want to talk to you guys. We do have an amazing event coming up in just a couple of weeks. We are having we're kicking off the year with our January mastermind. If you haven't seen flyers about it, we'll drop the link to register in the chat channel. We have the author of The Coffee Bean, who is fantastic. Like, his story is amazing. It's about, you know, the coffee bean is, if you're put into water, an egg will get hard, a potato will get soft, and a coffee bean will change the entire constitution of the water. And he has an amazing story that he's gonna start the day off with. That's gonna be followed up by a couple of really high, powerful panels. One of them is with Antonio. You guys know him. He was on our call a couple of months ago talking about investing in a whole bunch of different deals. He's going to be on a panel. We've got some other amazing speakers on panels that day. And then we're going to end the day with an amazing final keynote speaker who's going to talk about oneness. And he's got an amazing story. He's an awesome coach. We were able to get the price of this event reduced drastically because our amazing sponsors stepped up. We told them what we were trying to do. We said we want to impact as many lives as possible. We want to keep the cost as low as we possibly can. So we had sponsors really step up. So we were able to keep this for under $100, you guys, which is unheard of for this type of event with these types of speakers. It's going to be in Drexelbrook. It's going to be at Drexelbrook. It is January 22nd, so January 23rd. So just over 2 weeks from today. The link for that is in the chat. Would love for everybody to join us at that. It's going to be an amazing event. We will have our next Wealth Building Wednesday on February 5th. So excited about that. So make sure to save the date, put it in your calendar now. February 5th, we'll make sure that the link to register gets out to everybody. And just appreciate you, John, Lewis, Terese. Thank you guys so much for helping us kickstart our year with our Wealth Building Wednesday calls. These calls are some of my favorite ones that we get to host, and starting the year with you guys just makes it even that much more special. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, I hope that you have an amazing start of the year. Go forward and build your wealth. Until next time, talk to you later. Bye.